Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
It's a Thursday edition of our show, Simon. We are excited. Lots to talk about. Some heartache north of the border for MLS fans, but still a commendable result overall as we get ready to talk about the Montreal Impact, along with many other things today during our show. Got our weekly power rankings. We've got some predictions for you. There's just a lot of fun stuff to talk about, Simon. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Unfortunately, we're going to be a little abbreviated today.
We are,
Again,
yes.
Technical difficulties starting out here. But we're going to get through the stuff that we need to get through today.
The important stuff. Not that everything that we talk about isn't important, but the extra important stuff that we want to talk about. But before we do that, Simon, where can they find us on social media?
They can find us on Facebook at Two Up Front. And they can also find us on Twitter at Two Up Front Soccer.
Yes, indeed. And you can now listen to us on Spreaker.com. And don't forget, May 7th, we will officially be launching on SportsRadioAmerica.com.
Woo!
So that would be our next episode.
That's right.
Our very next
So we
episode.
launch next week.
Wow, tomorrow's May? What?
May Day.
May Day. Where in the world did this... I don't even know. How are we in May already?
And it was only 50 degrees today? Come on, weather.
I think it was like 78 in Florida where I'm from. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Well,
it's
bring some of that warm weather up
I
here,
will
would
do my
you?
best. After the wedding, I will do my best to bring
right.
as much hot weather as I can with me. But another exciting announcement, Simon. You can now download our podcast on iTunes. You can go to iTunes and search for Two Up Front, and you'll see our nice, beautiful logo on there, courtesy of Edge Promotions, and you can download and hit subscribe and give us a good review and all of that. We would very much appreciate that. We are not on the Cube today. Like we mentioned, with some technical difficulties, a.k.a. I forgot to plug in the iPad, but that's irrelevant. So no video today, but either way, you still get to hear our beautiful voices, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
So jumping right into it, Simon, last night was the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final. Montreal was going into the game was 1-1.
1-1 with that away goal that Montreal had, so they were actually in the driver's seat. Though we knew that driver's seat was not a very comfortable one to begin with.
Exactly, yes.
I put on our Facebook page a whole layout of what has to happen, and basically 0-0 is fine. 1-1 was okay, would take them into overtime. Anything beyond that, no bueno.
Yeah.
And last night ended up being no bueno in the end.
Exactly. But you did have the sense for just a few minutes, for actually the first half.
The first half, I was very confident that actually Montreal was going to pull this off. I thought, man, they were letting Club America have the sides again like they did in the first game. But when it came to the 18, anything inside and around the 18, Montreal took care of business. And they just gave me that confidence that they're gonna take care of this. They're gonna be the first MLS team, the first Canadian team to win this tournament and go on to the FIFA Club World Cup,
which would have been absolutely incredible. But as the way the soccer gods will have it sometimes, Montreal scored in the 8th minute, a very, very nice goal, an individual effort by Andres Romero.
With an individual effort before that from
Yes.
Piatti, who, man, he just slalomed through several players, then passed it off, and you take it from there.
Well, I was just going to say, with Romero and Piatti, too, I think they're some of the more underrated players in Major League Soccer. They do so much and are the pinnacle attack for Montreal, but I think a lot of people forget about that. So going into halftime, it was 1-0. A lot of people were excited, saying, hey, 45 more minutes, and Montreal is on their way to wherever they have the club. Where is the club?
The FIFA Club? I don't know where it is this year, to
it's
be honest with you.
might be
It's all over the place. It used to always be in Japan. Actually, before that, it was.
I think it was.
Besides just the winners of Europe and
Yes.
South America, they've been moving it around now.
Yes, indeed.
So we'll have to look it up. We'll have to find out where it is.
Yeah, exactly. Montreal lost. It's just Simon's got no reason for excitement this week. But, the wheels started to fall off, Simon, in the early in the second half. Dario Benedito, he ended the day with a hat trick.
He did. A well-deserved one, I have to say.
He really did.
He tried the scissors kick in the first game, failed miserably. This time,
nailed it.
Gorgeous. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful goal. Then Peralta comes in. He gets a goal. I mean, there was that 16 minutes or so where Montreal's defense, as great as they were in the first half, they just became Swiss cheese there for
really
that
did.
15 minutes, and it was heartbreaking. I'll tell you what, once Peralta got that second goal for Club America, all the confidence I had for Montreal,
Yeah.
I knew it was over.
It was, and you definitely had that feeling. And the way the goals were scored, too, these weren't simple little tap-in goals. These were things of absolute beauty, especially from Dario Benedetto. You talk about a Man of the Match award and an MVP award and a hat trick. That man, with his performance last night, was one of the best I've seen in the modern day of soccer in a long time.
There's a reason Club America paid $8 million for him. There's a reason they paid $10 million for Peralta. Those guys know how to play the game, and you think about those two players, right? Just those two guys alone probably cost Club America more than the entire roster of the Montreal Impact.
Oh, yeah.
There's got to be a point, if MLS really wants to take this seriously, MLS can't have teams out there on a prayer and a whim.
Yes.
They got to be able to spend the money.
Yep.
MLS has to make it possible for these teams to be successful on an international scale, and you can't do that on a salary cap that's just south of $4 million, and by the time the CBA is done with after 5 years, it's going to be just north of $4, maybe $5 million.
Yeah, and MLS clubs continue to complain about saying, oh, well, we want to be able to compete with the international clubs. Well, maybe if you had the capital for it, then yes. I understand you want to have the homegrown factor, that, made in America, as it were. I totally understand that. But if you want to be able to grow as an organization, you have to have money. And it's whatever up to you that you do with it, but you can still spend money on multiple players instead of paying, like we're seeing, $300 million for Ronaldo and all those other price tags. You don't have to necessarily throw in that much money for one player, but even still, if you have even $20 or $30 million, you can build a pretty nice team with that amount of money.
Absolutely, yes. Well, here's one more thing that will help out, and I'm sorry I got to go back to this.
Please.
But CONCACAF refereeing. Can I read you my game notes while I was
would love
watching
it
the
if you
game?
did, please.
All right, listen. Yellow card early in the game against Oduro,
Yes.
right? For the same type of foul that happened to him early in the game. Nothing. It was just a call, right? The assistant referee misses either a headbutt or a punch or a push to the face on Donadel. Topa gets taken out as he was running back on D. Donadel intercepts the ball clearly in front of a Club America player, gets called for a foul and a no more warning on that when there was no reason for that. He won the ball sliding in front of a player, didn't even touch the player. There was a clear penalty call for the impact as Piatti was taken down in the box. And yet what happens on the counter? Sumar gets carded for a yellow, taking a player out behind. Now, was it a fair call? Yeah, it was a fair call. It was a fair yellow. But it should have never happened in the first place because that was a clear penalty in the box. I'm not done yet.
I didn't think you were.
And then the same type of foul against Oduro that was only a foul, not a card on Pablo, right? So Pablo takes out Oduro, no card.
Of course.
That was the first 24 minutes of the game.
Jeez.
The first 24 minutes. And Pablo was getting away with stuff all game long. Then Guerrero finally gets a yellow card. This was in the, let's see, when did Guerrero finally get that card? In the 28th minute.
Yep.
All right? So you're thinking, okay, it's evening out. Yet in the 38th minute, Guerrero doesn't go for the ball at all. He takes out Piatti from behind, and he gets a talking to. That, by the spirit and letter of the law, that is a second yellow. And
Yes.
that's the second game in a row that Montreal, I'm sorry, they got screwed out of a player supposed to have to get a red on Club America, and they didn't.
Yes.
Now, that all said, yes, the refereeing was horrible, but the Impact cannot use that as an excuse.
No, they certainly can.
If there's one thing that was concerning to me from the beginning of the game, is as they would try their counter, you saw their nerves in the offense. They were playing passes very poorly. They weren't getting it to the players they needed to get it to. And you saw the players getting frustrated with each other. They got to be, if you're gonna rely on the counterattack, like they did at Azteca, you got to be able to make those passes. You can't let your nerves get the better of you up there. So, let's face it, there should have been a penalty call. Maybe it puts up Montreal 2-0. It's a totally different game. But I got tired of seeing Montreal argue with the referee. Be the better team in regards to your discipline. Let the ref call the game. Fine. I understand you want to try to get into his head a little bit, but don't go down to the type of play that Club America would with their attitudes.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
No, you're very much correct about that. There were 33 total fouls in the game last night, 20 of those against the Impact.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, were there that many fouls? Perhaps.
No.
Perhaps,
it
maybe
depends.
more,
Sure.
but you got to be more consistent. That's all I'm asking from the referees.
Yes.
Just be more consistent. If you give a guy a yellow for a foul and he commits almost the exact same foul, you got to give him another yellow. He made that choice to do that, so he's out of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's no reason or excuse for that. The referees definitely need to be looked at, and I think CONCACAF needs to get their act together in the nicest way possible of saying that, and really take a hard look at the referees that they're assigning to these games. Maybe you go and hire out. Maybe you bring in European refs for these kind of tournaments and not biased. That way you can't have any issues of, they're Hispanic and it's a Hispanic team in the final against an American team. Oh, down with the Americans. Da-da-da. No, come on. Let's move on from that bias and the USA-Mexico rivalry, and let's move on from all of that. You need to be able to have referees that come in that know about the game but are not tied to the leagues at all. They don't play. They're not CONCACAF referees. I personally think you should do that. You should bring in refs from Europe, bring in them from Asia, Australia, somewhere. Bring those refs in and let them do it. That way they're outside that bias zone.
I completely agree with that. That's it would be a fantastic idea. Then you're not going to. Well, I shouldn't say you're not going to get that bias, but it certainly, hopefully, evens out a bit more.
I would assume so. I mean, if you were to bring in, say you bring in a German ref. A
Sure,
group of three German referees that come in. They ref in the Bundesliga. They have zero ties to MLS. They have zero ties to the Mexican League. I really doubt that they were going to call that game biased one way or another.
Now, I'll give credit to CONCACAF for one thing.
Sure.
The Costa Rican team that the Impact played.
Yes.
We've tried to say that name several times. I'm just not even going to.
It starts with an H.
Starts with an A. Starts with an A.
We'll call them the A team. I don't know.
There you go. They were throwing coins. They were throwing shoes. Actually, one of the coins hit Evan Bush, the goalkeeper for the Impact, in the head down there during CONCACAF Champions League play. Well, they actually got sanctioned.
Good.
They got sanctioned an undisclosed amount of money, and their next time they play in CONCACAF Champions League, their first game, I believe it is, they have to play in a different stadium. Now, you and I talked about this where, hey, that's great, but at the same time, Costa Rica is a small country. Mm-hmm. Plenty of fans can show up there. I wish CONCACAF would do what UEFA does in that, hey, you're going to play the game at home, but no fans can come. Or, as we talked about, which I think would be the best solution, you don't get a home game in the next two-leg series you play.
That's perfect.
That will make teams and fans start to respect the game more.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting, Simon, as you were talking, I was looking, I just Googled CONCACAF just to see what would come up. And there's a headline from ESPNFC.com that comes up that says, money, not magic, needed for MLS to surpass Liga MX and CONCACAF. You can take that any way you want to, and some people could make the argument that, yes, it really would be very beneficial if, there was more money to go around like we just talked about. But at the same time, how do you fully address that? Like you said, MLS is on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to American leagues that are getting money. NFL, NBA, sure, all the Major League Baseball that doesn't have a salary cap. Imagine if MLS didn't have a salary cap.
Right.
I wouldn't even know. It would turn into FIFA Ultimate Team.
I will say I don't think they're ready for that yet. I mean,
no.
That's where the lessons of the old NASL have to come into play. The expansion was way too fast. People think MLS is expanding, and they're saying, "Oh, it's just like the NASL." No, my friends, the NASL expanded a lot faster than MLS is right now.
It wasn't ready.
But the thing is, the Impact did show. I don't think it's going to take much more money.
No.
I'd be interested to see what this article all has to say. I mean, Impact did hold their own. I think one of the things that may have affected the Impact actually is that they had too much time away from league play.
Yes.
And
they weren't staying.
I'll admit this is revisionist history because I was a big fan of all of this happening.
Yep.
But now looking back, maybe they should have played one or two of those games that got moved.
Why not? I think they should have, in all honesty, because that way it keeps you informed. And I understand you want to keep your players healthy for playoffs and all of that. But, like you said, why not? Why not be able to go and be able to play at least one more league game? They've only played, 2 or 3 up to this point?
Something like that.
It's been a very, very... I think it's 4. Well, 3 or 4. Either way, it's not a lot, regardless.
Either way, over the weekend, Club America didn't just play any old Liga MX game. They played against Chivas Guadalajara.
They played one of their the
that's
biggest
their derby.
Yeah,
their derby. That was huge. And actually, you saw how serious Club America took this tournament because Peralta did not start that game.
Yeah.
So I give respect to Club America. I actually have to also say I give respect to their goalkeeper. He was trash talking before the game, saying we're easily going to put 5 goals up against them.
Well,
they don't well, and they did, right? But they don't deserve to be in this tournament. Lo and behold, after the game, he said, it was in the moment. They deserve to be here. They were a worthy opponent. All the credit to them. So I give credit for Muniz coming back and retracting on his comments and giving them such respect.
Yes, yep. And as I'm looking through this article one last time, too, a quote from Frank from Klopa stands out saying, "These players here," referring to the Impact players, "they don't make millions of dollars like the America players do." And the next paragraph says, and that's it in a nutshell. The richest team in the continent's richest league, America spends up to 10 times more than the humble Impact on payroll. And that's true for a lot of teams.
Sure. The thing this article is ignoring, though, is what money does. Yes, it brings you better players, but what it does more importantly is it builds depth in the squad.
Yes.
You can have great players from 1 to 11, but it's after that 11th player that it really matters. We saw that with the goalkeeper situation.
Yeah.
Evan Bush is out, so what does Montreal have to do? They got to go to NASL Club Indy 11 and sign Nick. And his first game is the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final.
And we were hearing rumors around Major League Soccer about Sean Johnson trying to get loaned for a game, and then there was all the rules and regulations, and people were saying, why don't we just stack the Impact and just make it an all-star team? Well, you did some research and found out that in the bylaws that you can't do
CONCACAF,
that.
you can't do that.
Which it makes sense.
It does.
Because otherwise that would kind of take away from that, this was the Montreal Impact. It wasn't the Montreal Impact All-Stars. It was the Montreal Impact.
And that's how it should be. I mean, you shouldn't be able to just take any old players. At the same time, if you're out of players, there's got to be something to make up for that. But then that's a tricky situation, too, because then you have players feigning injury, and how do you monitor that?
Yep.
So the Impact did what they could. I'm sick of the moral victories when it comes to MLS.
Yeah,
but
I love those where it's like, we did as good as we could do. That's great, but we didn't win. We're past that. We've been around for 20 years. We're past we made it there. Good job. Like, no. At what point do you start turning up the volume and saying, look, if we don't win, we're not doing anything. We're not actually achieving anything. Sure, we made it to the final. That's great, but you had a valid opportunity, and people, I think, should criticize the Impact for their lack of being able to finish out the game.
It was just odd how, and this is where I'm going back to, maybe it's about playing some of those league games. They look so tired in that second half compared to Club America.
Absolutely,
and America's
tired.
been not taking a break. So maybe they weren't as in game shape as they should have been.
Yes. They thought they were resting, but they weren't getting the proper rest because they should have had some more league reps.
Exactly, and I agree with that. So here's the deal. I give credit to Montreal. What a turnout.
Yeah.
In Montreal. 61,000, the largest crowd for a professional soccer game. They had larger crowds there in the Olympics, but this was the largest crowd for a professional soccer game. Talking about making this tournament mean something.
Yeah.
And Club America came out and said they sold 105,000 tickets, ended up being more like 54 or 56,000. But still, that's a credible crowd for a game
Not bad at all, no.
that Club America fans were even saying, we don't care about this. Hey, when you saw those players crying last night after winning this trophy, I appreciated that.
I
appreciated seeing how much this actually did mean to Club America. So I wish them all the best. There's one team that did well from our region in the FIFA Club World Cup. It was a Mexican team. I want to say it was maybe Pachuca who made it to third place one year, but there's been plenty of times where the Mexican teams have been embarrassed in there. So Club America, I'm asking you, all right, now we're behind you when it comes to the FIFA Club World Cup.
Yeah.
Represent CONCACAF well. Impact, I thought you represented MLS well. You went down to Azteca, did the impossible, you got a result. Came back home, didn't happen. You had 15 minutes where, as I said, your defense became Swiss cheese. But we wish you the best of luck. What I'm most interested now, moving on from this, obviously, and I give Montreal credit for this as well, they prioritized Champions League play over league play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to see what happens now that they're done with league play or Champions League play, how Montreal is going to do in MLS. I don't think we've seen the real Montreal Impact. Well, we've barely seen them anyways.
Exactly.
In MLS.
I completely agree. And Simon, that does lead us in nicely to our 50-50 segment as well, brought to you by the Wisconsin Sports Group. Now the way our 50-50 segment works is that Simon and I will each take a side of a hot topic right now, and today, Simon, we are talking about what do you prefer, the CONCACAF Champions League or the UEFA Champions League?
Let me put a little caveat on that. It's not
Sure.
so much what we prefer as it is which one do we find more exciting.
Yes.
Right?
You're right. That's a good way to put it. Who started last week? Did you start?
I think I did.
I think you
I
did.
don't know.
I think it was Age Before Beauty last week. I don't
That's
remember.
right. Yes.
I think so. All right, so I will start it off with 45 seconds. Simon and I each get 45 seconds apiece, making a total for 90 seconds, which is a complete soccer match.
That's right.
So you see what we did there? That's what we try to think about some of the things we do. We don't want to sound like complete, foolish people. But anyway,
We do that enough.
we do that enough by ourselves. That's why we have a radio show. I don't know. Anyway, so 45 seconds on the clock for myself. I'm ready when you are, sir.
And tweet.
Tweet. All right. Well, for my side, I am taking the fact that the more exciting tournament to watch as a whole, and the higher level of play, obviously goes to the UEFA Champions League. You look at the absolute best players in the world playing for multiple weeks on end. Yes, you may have the argument that you get the Barcelonas, Real Madrids, PSGs, Bayern Munich. It's kind of that same group of 6 to 8 teams every year, but you get to look at the 6 to 8 teams with the best players on a national and international level all the time. That's the best soccer you're going to watch in the world. CONCACAF, you've got miles to go before you even think about comparing with having Messi and Ronaldo and the German national team, a.k.a. Bayern Munich, playing for what they do on a weekly basis.
Done. Ooh, that's going to be a tough one to argue with. But I'm going to have to.
I know
I'll
you
give
are.
it a shot here.
All right, 45 seconds for you, sir. The second half begins now.
I can't argue with the fact that the group play is much more exciting, for the most part, in UEFA Champions League. But what I will say, what I find more exciting about CONCACAF Champions League is the variety of teams you end up seeing. Yes, you have a lot of repeat winners, but when we're looking at the difference in the teams that are playing, look, we had a Canadian team this year. Yes, it's dominated by Mexican teams, but you see some different ones in there. CF Atlante won the first version of the Champions League. Pachuca won the next. Now, Monterrey went on a run there where they won 3 in a row. They also beat RSL in that. Then Cruz Azul won last time, and then last night was Club America. We look on who they all played. We see Cruz Azul was a runner-up a couple years, but we got Real Salt Lake, Santos Laguna, Toluca, Montreal Impact. There's a lot of variety, and that makes it more exciting.
Yes, it does. And even looking at it really quick, too, the LA Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders made it to the semifinals back in 2012-2013. TFC, the first Canadian team to do it before it was cool back in 2011-2012.
And you know what else, too? I do miss the old Champions Cup, only because that was the last time an American team actually won CONCACAF.
Yes, yep, exactly.
LA Galaxy was the last to do it in 2000. Now, I can't argue with the level of play, though. Obviously, the level of play in UEFA, it's the best there is. Better than the World Cup when it gets down to it.
It really is. It's exciting. You get the best players because sometimes players' national teams aren't good enough.
That's right.
To make it there. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to recap the week that was in Major League Soccer, reveal our new power rankings, and talk about a little bit of... Simon and I got to be famous for a very short period of time, but we're going to talk about
5 seconds.
that. 5 seconds of fame. We'll talk about that and so much more when we come back. This is 2 Up Front.
Welcome back to 2 Up Front. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
Are you sure? I did it again. I'm looking
Oh,
at
my
stuff,
gosh.
and this thing gets in my way. It's called thinking.
Oh,
You know?
I thought you just have to go for it. You just gotta, release your inner actor and just go for it, Simon. Come on, you're the actor, not
Yes,
me.
yes.
Well, Simon, earlier this week on Tuesday, you and I had the opportunity to be famous for 0.3 seconds. We got to attend a press conference for the Wisconsin Sports Group as they are working with the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee Parks.
Yeah, so this is kind of like our hometown spotlight without a guest today.
It is. We
Right?
were the guests because we were there and live and in person, and now we are here
Yeah.
talking about it. But
It's exciting stuff is what it is.
It
It's
is.
what's going on with Milwaukee County Parks partnering up with Wisconsin Sports Group. What they're doing is they've got some tennis courts that just aren't being used anymore like they were 70s, 80s, 90s. And so the Wisconsin Sports Group has teamed up with Milwaukee County Parks, and they're actually resurfacing at least the Lincoln Park tennis courts to be a outdoor futsal court.
Yeah.
And they're planning on doing this with hopefully at least
Fancy,
four more
fancy.
venues. Yeah, I think that's cool. The great thing, and we talked about this at the event, is that one of the things American soccer has been lacking is getting into the inner cities.
Yeah.
And finding those needles in the haystack of talent that maybe would go play basketball or American football instead. You can't build these huge grass fields everywhere.
Yep.
You're not always going to get 22 players out there to play. But what you can do, you have a futsal court. All you need is that heavy ball. 10 players
At the
and
most.
even then, right? You could have 8. You could do 3-on-3.
Yeah.
And play just fine. So, boy, I'm really hoping that this is a movement that helps bring those inner city kids out to play the world's game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that is a huge opportunity to continue to grow the sport. Like you said, especially when it comes to that inner city Milwaukee, just inner cities as a whole, because like you said, so much of what kids do when they're young is go play basketball at the local, park, or go and play football, even in the street, or you've heard of
Right.
pick up baseball, sandlot baseball, as it were, and you always try to think, oh, I can't play soccer because we don't have a big grass field, we don't have big goals. Well, with futsal now at the local tennis courts, you'll be able to do that.
And you pretty much do it for free.
Exactly.
They're providing everything for these kids to go out there and do it. It's exciting. It allows kids to play street soccer in a safe environment.
Yep.
And it allows them to experience what the Brazilians, what the Spanish, what Argentines, what they all do when they're growing up. They take a ball out there and they play futsal. And it's a game we've talked about a lot on the show, how greatly it helps develop your skills, your decision making, everything that you need to be a complete player.
Yeah, and we've seen that too. And we were talking with the commissioner of the Professional Futsal League, Keith Tozer, and he said, you look at the best players in the world when they were talking during the World Cup, Neymar, Ronaldo, and Messi. All of them sometime throughout the World Cup said, I am who I am today because I grew up playing futsal. And that's exactly it. You look at their touches, their pace, their speed, their ridiculous, skills that they have on the ball because they had that futsal upbringing.
Right, so now we have a group in Wisconsin, Allison Phillips. We've got Keith Tozier, a whole bunch of people involved in this. So it's the Milwaukee Parks. It's Unitas, who's the supplier. Badger Max is part of this. And, of course, Two Up Front is there to cover all of this as well. So,
Yes, indeed.
So we're excited to continue our partnership with Wisconsin Sports Group. We're very excited for what they're doing in the Milwaukee County Parks. We hope this spreads across the country, that it's not just a Milwaukee thing, but this could be really big for the sport in this country.
Yes, indeed. We look forward to continuing the growth. We're going to have to maybe sneak out there one of these days and go kick around, too. That's one thing Simon and I have yet to do is actually play a little soccer together.
Yeah, I've
Maybe
got
a little-
some
a little
injuries I'm still
futsal.
dealing with.
Aren't we all? Come on. I've got a reconstructed foot. I think you'll be just fine. Anyways, Simon, talking about reconstruction as teams look to salvage some of their dignity early in this season. You talk about the Chicago Fire, a team that has gone from worst to almost first in a very short, brief amount of time as we look back on the week that was in Major League Soccer. And we start with those Friday games on April 24th as the Chicago Fire grab a 1-0 victory against New York City FC. The decline continues for the expansion teams, and we've
It sure
talked about
does.
it.
Reality has hit,
It
hasn't it?
really has, and I think certain teams are starting to forget that. They're like, oh, well, we came out of the gates hot, but that's right. You have to play more than 5 or 6 games in a season. There's 34 games, and you actually have to finish above a certain line to make it to the playoffs. And I think the expansion teams, both Orlando and NYCFC, are starting to realize that the pomp and circumstance, the April Fool's purple fields, as it were, are starting to wear off, and they actually need to get down to it and play that nitty-gritty soccer.
I will say the one thing for NYCFC is they didn't have David Villa and they don't have Josh Saunders, who's their starting goalkeeper. But it's not like they were doing well the last couple of weeks before that,
They tied Philly, for gosh sakes.
Right.
How do you tie Philly? I mean, really.
This season, that's just a loss when you look at it.
If you tie Philly or Colorado, just disband.
So this is the crazy thing. Mira, the goalkeeper for the what are they going to call themselves? What do you think? What do you think the
for
fans?
NYC?
Yeah, what do you think?
Well,
the
they can't
fans
be called the Blues. That's not who are the Blues? Isn't Sporting Kansas City the Blues? Kind of.
I don't think they officially are. They could be called the Blues, or they could. Let's just call them what they are: Manchester City Junior.
You could do that.
I mean, that's essentially what they're. Anyways, City. So they're out with Villa and Josh Saunders. So Mira, who's a goalkeeper for the Red Bulls, is on loan to New York City FC this season, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I remember him playing with the Red Bulls. He did quite well. The Irish national team was actually had him on their radar. But anyways, David Ackham, DP for the Fire, he's the guy who played in like the second division out in Scandinavia or something like that. He finally gets a goal.
And they were like, he's such a great signing. And I'm like, who?
Who?
Never heard of him.
So, well, he gets his first goal.
Good for him.
And he did a great job. Mira saw the ball going out of bounds, so he went to go save it. But as he's doing that, Ackham went to pressure him. Well, Mira bobbles the ball as he went for it, and Ackham just turned, saw the goal, put it in. 1-0. That's all they needed.
And that's all I needed to continue to shoot up the standings, and we'll find out later as well. They make a jump up the ladder, as it were, as the Firehouse, in our power rankings as well. Later that night, though, on Friday night, Colorado taking on FC Dallas. I know for myself personally, I was like, FC Dallas should win that game. Oh, no, I had Colorado winning that game.
You did. You picked that. That was your upset.
That was my upset for the week. And it's not like it didn't completely come true, but it was a 1-1 tie, unfortunately. Colorado proving that they are maybe not as bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe they're starting to put stuff together.
Because they beat FC Dallas 4-0 a few weeks ago. And then they haven't done too incredibly horrible since, but I don't really know. I'm really not sure.
Or is it that they just have FC Dallas's number?
That is also very
You always
possible.
have that team that they're horrible, but they just seem to have another team figured out. And I'm wondering if that's what's going on. I say that, but then again, Colorado ties the Red Bulls.
Yeah, later on that week.
Last night.
Yeah.
Wasn't it last night?
It was last night. Yep, you were absolutely correct about that. The one MLS game during CONCACAF Champions League. What? I don't even know. Anyway,
and we'll get to the whole New York Red Bulls thing in a bit of how that could be a factor.
That could, yeah. I mean, looking at Colorado, they are still the worst team in the Western Conference with 8 points. Ironically enough, they would be in 6th place in the Eastern Conference.
Like we keep saying all season long, I do think, Baxter, the top teams in the East, for example, New England, they're on fire.
Yeah.
DC are starting to come around on, but they go to Vancouver, get a 2-1 win there. I do think we'll see the top teams in the East give the teams in the West a huge run for their money. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cup winner does come out of the East. But as a whole, the Western Conference it's a beast.
It is. It really is, especially when you threw Houston and Sporting into that division last year, too. Everyone was like, oh, great. Let's just make it even more difficult.
Not only are you moving two of the stronger Eastern teams into the West, you're replacing them in the East with two expansion teams.
Yeah. And the East is probably like, thanks for that.
Yes.
Appreciate it. I mean, the conference lost a little bit of credibility because of that. But
you know what, though? This goes back to why we need the MLS Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not a balanced schedule. You can't claim the Supporters' Shield winner doesn't mean you won the league.
No.
Because you haven't played each team an equal amount of times. If you're a team in the East, let's face it, you have an easier schedule this year.
You do. You played your conference teams 3 times. And then you play everybody in the West once.
So
sometimes twice, depending on scheduling.
And then, of course, vice versa for the more difficult conference in the West. So how can you, if you're New England Revolution, and this is not a slight on your team, but
of course
if you're the New England Revolution and you do best in the league, you can't sit there and claim, yep, we're the best team because we got most points. Well, you played the expansion clubs 6 times this season.
Yeah, and whether or not you beat them all 6 times is yet to show. And even taking into account they just beat RSL 4-0 this last weekend. They beat a non-Nick Rimando, non-Kyle Beckerman RSL.
Yes, a very weekend
totally
RSL
different team. Totally different.
So you need to have something to figure out who truly is the best in the league.
Yes.
And the way to do that is through playoffs, and then you have a final.
And that's why I love the playoffs. And I mean, as much as I'm mad that they expanded it, it's a good idea because now they can actually get a little bit more in there, because there's always that 1 or 2 teams every year that are like, oh, if they had made the playoffs, like they should have, but that one goal and that one rainy night in October, they lost because of whatever. But
yeah, I'm still not a fan of expanding it to 12 teams. I know you're probably not either, but
I'm not. No,
it does take a little glimmer off of the regular season. At the same time, you need these teams to be fighting till the end of the season for something.
Yep, exactly. And we certainly saw that from 4 different teams on Saturday, Simon, as the New England Revolution put in 4 goals against Real Salt Lake. Columbus put in 4 goals against the Philly Union, and then Houston and Sporting Kansas City combined for 8 goals to go 4-4 for arguably one of the best games we're probably going to see all year.
That was an amazing game. You mind if I do
Please.
a quick review of that? So Sporting Kansas City gets a goal in the 2nd minute of play. Christian Nemeth, another great goal. He had one earlier this season. Puts it in there to put SKC up. And then you're thinking, all right, this is going to be a blowout by Sporting. Nope, Barnes from Houston in the 11th minute ties it up, pouncing on a Sporting Kansas City mistake there. And then we see 35 seconds into the second half, Barnes gets his 2nd goal. Keeper looked like he was asleep on that one, by the way.
He really did, yeah.
So that's actually where Houston is now up 3-1. Oh, the first half stoppage, Will Bruin. They call him the Dancing Bear. He got his first start of the season, his first goal of the season. A nice glancing header for him. So he puts that in. So after Barnes' goal in the second half, 35 seconds into the second half, Houston's up 3-1. So you're thinking, all right, good night. This is done. They're playing at home in Houston, taken care of.
Not about to worry about anything.
And that's not what happens.
And then the second half
What
started.
does happen?
Then
74th.
America showed up.
That's right. 74th minute. Oh, Ricardo Clark. How quickly you have fallen. Such a poor, long back pass to his keeper that...
It reminds me of the World Cup 2 World Cups ago.
Yeah, well, Dom Dwyer is there, pounces on the ball.
Happens.
A player like Dwyer is going to take advantage of those mistakes.
Every time.
And guess what? I'm going to give a compliment to a ref.
Oh.
So Dwyer has the ball. Keeper basically takes him out. You see the ref about to blow it, but he sees Dwyer get up and get the ball. Lets him score in regular play.
Yeah.
Ref let it play on. Then in the... Let's see, where are we at here now? In the 80th minute, Sporting Kansas City ties it up.
3 apiece.
Benny puts in a PK after the Dynamo handball, which did lead to a red card, by the way.
Yep.
Took 3 minutes before that penalty kick actually got
Gosh, take the darn penalty kick. Benny
well,
Feilhaber.
you see the arguments from the defensive players and all that.
Yeah. You're welcome for him, by the way, as a Revolution fan. You're welcome for Benny Feilhaber, Sporting Kansas City.
So then Rodriguez, 83rd minute now. Rodriguez puts in a header from, of course, Brad Davis.
Beautiful.
Okay, 83rd minute, 4-3. Well-fought win for the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah, they earned it. Well done.
6 minutes of stoppage due to all the arguing. I think there was an injury in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the goals that are being scored. Well, 95th minute of the game. Dom Dwyer has this nice flick up to Susie, who's at the top of the box. A lot of players you're thinking are going to try to turn and shoot that thing. Susie has the presence of mind to head it back to Benny Feilhaber. Feilhaber, 95th minute goal. He does what he does best. Rocket shot from about 20 yards out. It completely reminded me of that awesome goal he had against Mexico in the 2007 Gold Cup final. And there you go, 4-4. Sporting in Houston.
Yeah, I think the ref blew the whistle very shortly after that. He was probably like, we're done. Shut it down. I got nothing left. This is ridiculous. That game, I think, should be argued as one of the best games. I know we've still got many weeks to play, but a 4-4 thriller and a 95th minute tying goal? That's hard to beat.
That is hard to beat, and a great goal at that.
Yes,
it was beautiful. I can't deny that.
No, certainly not. But yeah, we certainly saw 4 teams score 4 goals each in their game. That doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, I know we're running short on time. Do you want to review that New England game at all?
I will fast. Yeah, like I said, it was a good game for the Revolution as a whole because they got a much needed win against a tough Western Conference opponent, but you only can take it for what it's worth because no Nick Rimando in goal, which immediately changes the circumstances. And then Kyle Beckerman was also out due to the injury that he got during the USA-Mexico game. I will say this, though. Chris Tierney the left back for the New England Revolution, scoring the first goal of the game on an absolute gorgeous curling ball to the far post with his weaker foot. That man needs to start getting looked at for U.S. men's national team play.
I agree with you. I know you're trying to start a movement on Twitter.
I'm trying to start a movement, right? Chris Tierney for U.S. men's national team, because when you look at guys like Fabian Johnson, you look at Greg Garza, and you look at Brek Shea, all of them are pretty much good at one thing. You know, Chris Tierney is good at several things.
Right.
He doesn't have blazing fast speed like Fabian Johnson, but he's got terrific first touch. He's a great set piece taker. He's got a deadly left foot, better than Brek Shea is, and he can score with his weaker foot on top of everything else. And he's only 29 years old. Yeah, some people are like, oh, he's too old. Well, he's old, but he's not at the same time because he's got good experience. But either way, New England scoring 4 different goal scorers. That was a huge one, especially for that, building confidence across the board. Agudelo, Davies. We saw Scotty Caldwell get his first professional goal. Huge game for them. He was awarded the match ball. A great game overall for New England. Hopefully that can continue to carry on this coming week when they will take on the Red Bulls, which we'll talk about in our next segment. DC United taking on Vancouver Whitecaps and beating them 2-1. They go to Vancouver, Simon, and silence the building in a 2-1 interesting game.
They sure did. They sure did. I don't get what Vancouver fans are saying. I'm sorry for those of you who are Whitecap fans. You're talking about how DC would not have won this game if it wasn't for that red card. It was already tied. It was already tied up 1-1 at this point. It's not like DC was getting run off the field. And to say, that this red card business doesn't really show how strong DC is or how weak Vancouver is, guess what, folks? Playing the mental game is part of soccer.
Yes, it is.
Laba got a yellow card, and he got himself in a situation where he had to get another yellow card. Now, was it a yellow? Maybe, maybe not. But you have to, after you get your first yellow, you have to adjust on the field.
You really
can't
do.
play as aggressive. You got to get more creative. He didn't. He got the red card. He paid the price. 65 seconds in, you are thinking Vancouver's going to take care of this game. Pedro Morales plays a great ball, places it right over Dykstra, DC's keeper.
Yep.
But then Bobby Boswell comes just 10 minutes later or so and ties it up. And then Chris Rolfe, 64th minute. What a stunning full volley strike.
Beautiful goal.
So guess what? DC wins the game. You can talk about the possession game. You can talk about this red card. The fact of the matter is, in soccer, only one thing matters, and that is the scoreboard. And DC United, who you've been questioning, wins 2-1.
I don't know. I'm still on the fence about them. No, I'm kidding. They're doing well, in all honesty, and we'll talk about them in our power rankings as well. Briefly looking at some of the other games before you jump in. TFC, Josie Altidore scoring his third and fourth goals.
Third and fourth,
now
brace
in league
for
play.
Yep.
TFC finally getting a victory against none other than Orlando City
at
FC.
home too. Orlando again at home.
Orlando's just having awful luck at home.
Yes,
this
they
year.
are.
And then the Red Bulls, Colorado, go 1-1 last night.
I think we skipped over the Red Bulls.
We did,
LA
because
game.
I was going back because
gotcha,
I wanted to, because
gotcha.
I know for that Seattle-Portland game, I wanted to get your thoughts about that fast before we talk about the LA Red Bulls game.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Seattle-Portland, though, a 1-0 game. Clint Dempsey just playing clean-up, doing what a forward's taught to do, and just knocking home the goal to take home the victory.
Yeah, I have to say it was not a fun game, and it's not just because the Timbers lost. I think any unbiased person watching that game, it was pretty boring. It was not one of the better Seattle-Portland games. Portland has lost plenty to Seattle that I thought that was a fun game to watch.
Oh, sure.
This was not. This was just a lot of again whining to the refs, but a lot of back and forth ball, and not back and forth in an exciting way like that Champions League final was. This was just slow. It was slow. It was boring. Honestly, I don't have much thoughts on this other than, did Seattle deserve to win? I don't know. Did Portland deserve to win? I don't know. That's the kind of game it was.
Yeah, and it's as an outsider looking in, I didn't follow the game too closely, but when I did check in on the stats and just check in on the goals and stuff, I'm like, it was 1-0, and from everything that I gathered from my good writer friends on Twitter about the game, they were not thrilled by the game. They're like, well, that was kind of a waste of almost 2 hours of my life.
I think it was the 40th. No, it wasn't no, they've played more games than that. So, anyways, I'm thinking of the 40th anniversary.
Well, you did mention, though, that Portland had 2 great opportunities as Adi came in late in the game.
He did. Well, that's one thing I'll say. I was very pleased. I questioned why Porter wasn't starting Adi, and then I realized why he wasn't. Urruti actually played very well. He did his job in this game. So he was in there for Adi. Then Adi comes in, I believe, in the 74th minute. And 2 clear chances on goal. He couldn't put them away. But what I thought was, this is awesome. It's the 74th minute. We're at Sea-Link. Portland's got this game tied up. A fresh Adi in the 74th minute. Are you kidding me? This is fantastic.
The dream.
2 clear chances that unfortunately he missed. But yeah, I mean, you do look at the stats. Portland actually outshot Seattle, not by much, by 1, but 11 shots to 10.
So in that regards, it wasn't boring. It wasn't like it was, 2 shots to 1 kind of a thing. I mean, there was 21 total shots. Yes, only 5 total shots combined between the two teams hit target.
Right.
3 for Seattle, 2 for Portland. But
we
still.
we talk about the back and forth. Even you look at the passing, 510 total passes for Seattle, 503 for Portland. Possession was, for all intents and purposes, 50-50.
I'd say it was right down the middle, basically.
So and it wasn't down the middle because of the fantastic passing they were doing.
Yes.
It was just slow. It was a slow game. So I thought Portland was going to pull it out with Adi, but Portland's keeper, I always mess up his name, Kowarski, bobbles the ball when he should have had that in his hands. And give credit to Dempsey. He was there, cleanup crew, put it in.
That's what you're taught to do. That's what you're taught to do. All right, quickly, Simon, talk about the Red Bulls Galaxy game, and then we'll jump to a break and come back and talk power rankings and predictions.
Sounds good. Sorry, where were we at?
Galaxy Red Bulls. You had
Galaxy Red
some
Bulls.
thoughts about this game in terms of the amount of possession that the Red Bulls had.
Oh, it's just amazing. This also happened in the Colorado game. New York Red Bulls, even though they tied these games 1-1, and I think a lot of that was because they played 2 games in 3 days, and they'll eventually play 3 games in 7 days, then they'll finally get that 8-day break. But
well-deserved.
But their possession has been amazing. Up in near the 70s. I mean, against Colorado, it was 69%. And I think it was around 65, 64 against LA.
It was again, yep.
Michael Bradley had a quote last year saying, "Don't look too much into possession, though. That's not what matters. What matters is the score."
Yes, but
we see that, right? So New York's dominated on the field both these games.
Mm-hmm.
That LA goal was against the run of play, clearly.
It was.
Yet
it was Bradford Jamieson IV, a young prospect.
First MLS goal.
Yeah. And we could get into him
Zardes
a whole
second.
time, too.
Yeah.
He really is. People are calling him Gyasi Zardes II. They got the same hairdo going on. I think that's the
That's what it is.
comparison.
You know why Zardes does that?
Why?
So his grandparents can see him.
That's
awesome.
Wow. That's a great thing for him. Well done, sir. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to offer our power rankings and offer our MLS predictions, which are sponsored by Shop Futsal. And then we do have our I Believe segment as well. This is 2 Up Front. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
All right, well, we don't have a ton of time, unfortunately, left today, Simon. We both have some extra things to do right after the show, so we both got to scoot out of here quickly. But our new power rankings are out, Simon. Take us from number 10 down to number 1 and give us a little insight for us.
All right, so number 10, big slide this week, Vancouver Whitecaps. But look, they lost 2-1 at home. We don't have 1 win in their last 4 games. That'll see you drop in any power rankings.
Oh, yeah, no matter what. Unless you're MLS and then you think that, the Seattle Sounders deserve to be number 2. Don't even get me started about that. Oh, we need a 50-50 segment about MLSsoccer.com. That yellow
it's not
font.
All bad. It's not
that
all
Club
bad,
America
but...
yellow font. I can't read it.
So it's more of just the layout stuff,
It
right?
is.
Okay.
Give me their web designer on the phone.
Who do we have at number 9?
Number
Baxter?
9 is the Houston Dynamo, the former East, now the West. They didn't do awful. That 4-4 draw, definitely something good to keep an eye on.
I had them originally in my playoff prediction, and
you did, and
backed
then you backed out on them. You could make an argument that maybe they should be higher up the list because they tied, but as you will find out later on, Sporting Kansas City is not in our power rankings anymore.
That's right.
Number 8, a former number 1, as we've seen 2 former number 1s now at the bottom of our power rankings, FC Dallas. Why is that, Simon?
Well, they're a bit of a question mark right now. They have 1 win in 4 games after starting hot out the gate. Their draw was against Colorado, who also beat them. So, yeah, they had a victory 2 weeks ago that was convincing, except, of course, for the last 5 minutes against TFC when Giovinco took matters into his own hands.
That man is just a monster.
So while we see other teams really starting to show who they are, FC Dallas is going the opposite way.
Yeah. But like we said, it's a long season, so we'll see. Number 7, the Seattle Sounders, not very convincing, like we said, against Portland, especially with having Clint Dempsey back. All their big guns, you'd like to take them against the field almost any day, in all honesty.
Especially at home.
Exactly, especially at home. Still got the win, so you got to credit them for that. They move up in the Shield rankings. But, like we just mentioned, how in the world does MLSsoccer.com have them at number 2
we know,
in their power rankings?
We know that MLS loves the Sounders, but do they have to make it that obvious?
Come on, might as well just give them number 1. Just be like, they win the cup. Just give it to them. They've been pushing for them to win the cup for the last, 5 years, for gosh sakes.
Well, I think we have a slight drop in this next team. I think they were 5 last week, perhaps?
They were 3.
They were. Oh, yes. Well, they had a big slide then. We've got the LA Galaxy at 6. Look, they had a decent draw at Red Bulls without Keane, but 1 through 5 right now basically is just proving to be better. So it's not even so much a slide because they're playing bad. It's that these other teams above them have just been playing really, really well, which leads us to number 5.
Number 5, the Columbus Crew. They were 7. I know how to read. They were 7 last week. They haven't lost since week 3, Simon. They're on a 2-game winning streak, 4-game total unbeaten streak. That 4-goal escapade against the Philly Union, not a bad showing.
And Kai Kamara getting his 5th goal of the season.
He is doing very well.
So this next one, I'm hoping it's not an anomaly because I did go back and see who they've beaten.
Yeah.
But the Chicago Fire, they're winners of 3 in a row. And they have been convincing wins. Can't argue with that. But those 3 wins, we will have to check ourselves on this. Philly, Toronto, and NYCFC.
Yeah.
So, but that Toronto, that was a full-strength Toronto team, if I remember correctly.
It depends on how you want to look at it. Do you want to look at how that team, as Toronto, was doing up to that point, or do you want to look at the players they had on the field?
Very good.
There's numerous ways to look at it. Number 3, the New England Revolution. Woo! Pretty straightforward, in all honesty. 4-0 win against RSL. Yes, like we said, they were playing a downed version of RSL, but still, anytime you score 4 goals against any team in MLS and have not lost a game, in recent history, I can't remember how many unbeaten they are at, but they're playing very well.
Here's the deal: if Germany plays a week in Brazil in the World Cup final and Germany wins, guess what they are? They're the World Cup champions.
That's true.
It's not about who's there or not there when it gets down to it. It's, for the most part, when we're doing power rankings, a little bit different.
Sure.
But you win the game, you win the game.
Yeah. New England hasn't lost since week 2.
So I'm going to turn the honors back to you for number 2 in our rankings.
Thank you so much. I noticed how I even did the Seattle one, too. Number 2 is DC United. Such a great, great team. Love them. Love them. I might get a jersey. They have a big win this week, though, Simon. They win 2-1. Big win away from home. They definitely seem to be firing in all cylinders, which leads us to a number 1 team.
Number 1. Same as last week.
For the same as last week.
That's right. New York.
They didn't lose.
They didn't lose. Only undefeated team in MLS, the New York Red Bulls. So you could say, hey, they've had 2 draws their last game, and they're 1-1. I still think, with the possession that they did have, as much as Michael Bradley might not agree with me, they keep that possession. They're going to start dominating even more so in this league.
Yes.
And you can't, 2 games in 3 days. They were preparing before that first game for both games. They have another game coming up very soon, so they're in a tough stretch. If they can get through and they're going to be playing a very strong New England Revolution.
Woo!
If they remain undefeated, whether that's another draw or whether that's an actual win, hey, they stay at the top.
They do.
If they lose, different story. But the fact of the matter is they're playing a lot of games in a short period of time.
They are. And now, Simon, I did notice this, so those are our official power rankings. I did notice that the biggest drop that we had was the Vancouver Whitecaps were at number 2 last week, and they fell all the way to 10. All the way to 10.
I think it's just the realization of looking at their past results. They're actually not I don't want to say they're not as good as we thought they were.
Because they're still the number 1 team in MLS, technically. Because they had a hot start.
Right.
And they're riding that wave.
And that's, again, what we keep reminding people of. This is not about the current standings. This is definitely about how hot teams are right now. And Vancouver is not hot.
Exactly. All right, well, we're going to go through our predictions very fast, brought to you by ShopFutsal.com. No takers last week on the challenge, so hopefully we get at least 5 of you this week. If you have the best prediction record Out of all the predictions that are posted this week, you will win a $25 gift card to shopfutsal.com, courtesy of Allison Phillips and the Wisconsin Sports Group.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we're going to blaze through our picks real quick here because we are nearly out of time. Simon, Houston and FC Dallas, who you got?
Houston and FC Dallas. I'm going to go with Houston on this one.
All right, I've got FC Dallas. RSL and San Jose.
RSL.
I've got San Jose.
All right.
2 for 2 so far here. Philly and TFC, please.
TFC.
Yeah, TFC for that one as well.
Game of the week right here.
DC United and Columbus Crew.
I'm telling you, I'm calling this the game of the week.
Okay.
We could say New England NYRB is a game of the week, but I'm going with this one. This is a tough one. Just because they're at home, I'm going with DC.
I've got the Crew winning this one. Not that I don't like DC. I took a solid 10 seconds to think if I actually wanted to pick DC. Revolution and the Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls winning streak or undefeated streak comes to an end.
And I completely agree with you.
Revolution are hot. New York not doing terrible, but they haven't been able to close out games.
Well, and it's not even so much about the closing out games for me. It's that this is their third game in 7 or 8 days.
Yeah, they're going to be tired. I think New England's going to take advantage of that. Galaxy and Colorado. I think the Galaxy are going to dust off themselves and start scoring some more goals and beat
Pablo
the Rapids.
Mastroeni comes home to L.A., but his Colorado Rapids won't come with him.
No, they will probably forget to get on the plane. Portland and Vancouver, another Cascadia Cup excitement. I've got Portland winning this game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that.
I think they need to capitalize on Vancouver.
Sorry.
No?
I haven't picked a draw yet. I'm picking a draw.
Oh, my gosh. A 7-7 draw. This is, in my opinion, is the game of the week. Sporting Kansas City and Chicago. I've got Chicago beating SKC.
You do.
They are on fire.
They are on fire. I will take Sporting on this one.
All right. NYCFC and Seattle. I have got Seattle winning this game. I don't think that city is capable of winning a game right now.
I don't either, so I'm picking New York City. Yeah, you heard me right.
Moving on, Houston and San Jose. I've got Houston winning this game.
I do as well.
Why do we work together? Toronto FC is going to go
games.
all Club America on Montreal, in my opinion.
This is the Canadian Championship. That's why. Okay, so we're picking these?
Yeah, we're definitely picking these. So I have TFC beating Montreal.
Montreal's going in. The winners on this one.
I don't think so. And then Vancouver versus FC Edmonton, part of the Canadian Championship. I'm going to take Vancouver just because I don't know who FC Edmonton is.
I believe they are an NASL club. And they actually do quite well in this tournament. So guess what? I'm picking FC Edmonton.
Upset. All right. And then the Galaxy and Real Salt Lake.
I'll go with Galaxy on this one.
Galaxy. All right. That's who I have as well.
All right.
Galaxy. All right, Simon. Well, you know what that means, Simon. It's time for our I Believe segment, part of our show. Unfortunately, Simon, I'm going to go first because I want to. I believe that we need more time.
Great.
We don't have time.
We don't. I believe we're 3 minutes over.
I believe you are correct, so I'm so glad that we agree. You hear that music, which means it is time for our show to come to a conclusion. It's been a lot of fun. A little bit faster show today, but still a good time as always. We heard about our power rankings, our CCL recap.
Be sure, go on Facebook, give us your predictions. We want somebody to win this shopfutsal.com $25 gift certificate. So we need at least 5 people joining us on our predictions.
Watch for the official feed to be posted later today. We will post it in all caps. Say, hey, predictions, put them here. Simon and I will share them on our respective Facebooks and Twitters and all that too. So check it out. You could win. You could win big money. All right. He's Simon Provan. I am Baxter Colburn. Any final thoughts, sir?
Hey, 2 months together.
Woo!
Thanks for a good time, buddy.
You're
Looking
welcome.
forward
Thank
to
you.
Many more months together.
The future is bright, sir. I'm very much excited for it. All right. Well, for Simon Provan, I am Baxter Colburn, and with our manager being the one up top, we are 2 up front. Have a great rest of your day, folks.
Go!